Joining us in just a bit, Capt GR Gopinath, the MD, Chief Executive of Air Deccan, and in our Delhi studios, Mr. Balbir Mayal. He's a former President of the Travel Agents Association of India. So, Mayal, if I can just put it into perspective for our viewers in terms of travel operators, what changed over the years? Earlier, there may have been 2 or 3 airlines, so there was a limited amount of tickets and limited amount of travelers. That had increased manifold 3 times, from 40 million in 5 years to about 117 million. So basically what happened was that the pie was increasing and your share in that was also increasing. Was that correct?
Yeah, that's definitely. See, what happened was, you see, earlier we have only 2 or 3 airlines, the legacy carriers basically, right. And they're very, very expensive. And people are always finding a difference between the train travel or the air travel. Then, you know, these low-cost airlines came. Deccan Airlines is, I think, the point they're the first to come, you know, on the scene. And in the previous year, the first years, the business really grew up because, you see, the fares were so less as compared to the legacy carriers' fares. And people, you know, who were traveling in the trains earlier, you know, they were shifting out to the air travel because they were finding it very easy and saving time also. But now, as you see that, you know, the fuel prices are increasing day by day, and the taxes particularly. I mean, I don't think so in the coming time the low-cost airlines will be any more left low-cost airlines. They'll be basically, they'll be as good as the regular carrier, the legacy carriers. According to me, what is going to happen is, the low-cost carrier, there are certain costs, you know, which are definitely they are supposed to have it. You know, for example, the fuel, they have to pay for it, and the pilot salary, the administrative cost and everything. Right? Earlier, why they were doing better? Because there was administrative cost was less, and the petrol, you know, they were saving something on it, and there were no overheads, much overheads as compared to the legacy carriers, and they could afford to have it. And particularly, and secondly, was the cash flow, because all these airlines, if you say they all internet, they were saving money on the reservations, they're not giving any credit in the market, they were giving cash, and with the cash flow, they were running the airlines like that. You see, and now, the taxes, the fuel, ATF we call it, and it's increased so much. Then I don't find, according to me, these low-cost carriers will be able to survive like this. It's because the fares are less, but the taxes. Now I give you an example. For example, now Hyderabad, for example, the fare is 1,000 rupees at the moment, right? And the tax is, earlier it was 2,725. And now, recently, a week before...
Exactly how we started the show. 500 rupees for your basic fare for some routes.
I'm talking about legacy carrier.
4 times the amount.
And now the taxes, last week, they've increased the taxes again. Now, if you see the cost of the ticket, which was earlier, with the costing, now it's costing 30 to 40% more.
Now, tell me also about the effect on what are called the ancillary industry, the travel industry, from if the airline industry goes into a nosedive, how that affects you. An IATA study has shown that every 1 job that's added in an airlines adds 6 jobs in your industry. So obviously, if the airlines are going to do bad, it's going to hurt you not only in terms of earnings, but also in employment.
Definitely. You see now, what is going to happen is, if the things are getting expensive. You see, earlier what happened, if there's a boom, we started making money. Now all of a sudden, again, the way the prices are going up, definitely the travel will go less, it'll go down. And definitely going to affect our business. Now, today, for example, we are making money, or there's a big business because the people are traveling. If you see now how many flights we have to, I'm just going to one example of Bombay, for example. About 40 to 50 flights a day we have. And because of the low fares, the train travel, the people who used to travel by train earlier, they started traveling by air, and the things have gone very good. If you see the last couple of years, business in, the domestic travel is gone tremendously up by 30 to 40% every year, which is phenomenal.
And this year, in fact, the figures are for April are just 7%. So they are increasing, but not at the rate that they were increasing.
It's going to go down.
Now, again, talking about the travel industry itself, hasn't another change in the consumer attitude also affected you, which is the usage of credit cards? Earlier, Indian domestic traveler at least would always go to their travel agent. Now they can do that independent of you. Has that affected your business?
Well, that's not that much, because if the travel has increased so much, you see, the travel increased so much, but the ticket, buying of ticket on the credit card something is very little at the moment, maybe 5% or 10%. So that is not that much effective, because the travel also has gone up. But in the coming time, yes. For example, you take the case of America or Europe, with 99% of your transactions are being done on the credit cards. But unfortunately, in India at the moment, the situation is not like this. We are at the moment getting maximum 10% of the total business on the credit cards. The rest is all, you pay cash or on credit or whatever. But it's going to affect ultimately.
You were talking about domestic travel and how price conscious the domestic traveler is, especially if there's an alternative, that is rail or bus or road. And they would shift to that if the prices go up substantially. They've already gone up 10 times in the last year. What about Indian travelers who are international? They don't really have an option, do they?
International travel has gone down this year, particularly.
So they give up.
Definitely. You see,
they don't have an option. So
they don't have an option. And you see, the Indian traveller, for example, the fare to London at the moment is about 20,000 rupees. And the tax is 17,000 rupees on this. If you tell the passenger the fare is 20,000, even if he's very happy about it. But if you tell the total cost, it becomes 37,000 rupees. Again, it's not very expensive. I mean, not very cheap. So it's going to definitely affect. And I tell you, particularly this summer, is not very good. Sure. As compared to the previous summers, because the fares have gone up because of this fuel hike.
You blame the government, and the centre has now put it in the state government's court that it's that variation from about 4% in some states to up to 33% of tax in different states. They put it in the state government's court. But what would you say, how would you say the budget airlines themselves are responsible for the mess they are in by the fares that they were providing, which are not really economically viable all these years?
Naturally, you see, in the beginning, when they started it, it was quite all right, because you see, it was a new phenomena in this country. So they had a good time for a couple of years. But now, since other airlines are also there's a lot of competition, and the fuel is going up, and they cannot reduce their cost to a certain level, beyond a certain level, and they have to increase their prices, And the passenger feels, if he has to pay that high, the fare, then definitely, earlier as he was traveling by train, he was shifting from train to the air, thinking that, the fares are less, and he could afford to buy it and save time. But now again the situation is coming back to square one, because they might go back to the railway travel.
Just bringing out another fact that most people would not know, that is the high taxes that are on aviation turbine fuel, they are actually part of a cross-subsidization package. That is, since the government or our mindsets show that the airlines or air travel is just luxury and not a necessity, they think they can tax it to that large extent and subsidize our petroleum products. That's where they're paying for the subsidy that we are getting for our petrol products. Yeah. Isn't that also correct?
Yeah, you see, the question is, unfortunately, I don't know why, because it's the government of India, let me be very honest to you on that, they have never ever thought this tourism, particularly travel by air, as a necessity or something, or given importance to that. They always feel it's a rich man's this thing, but I don't think so. In today's time is a very important factor. You see, you must have seen that a lot of executives, travel from Delhi to Bombay. They go in the morning, come back in the evening, and they save money on the hotels. So that way, you see, the travel is at the moment is not a luxury. It used to be once upon a time.